stage one, we have a fall, which means that there was you realize that the job is soul sucking. You realize that you don't like it anymore. You realize, okay, there's a second part of myself or this third act, whatever that thing is. It's that fall either doesn't have to take you all the way down to your knees, but it requires you to think differently.
So let's talk about the difference in self-worth, the difference in the ability to be resilient, the difference in coping in terms of the fear that comes up as you sort of venture down this new life, this new career, this new way of doing things. A lot of the practitioners and coaches in my community are in that spot right now where they're maybe in a day job that has nothing to do with their healing profession or their coaching profession, or they're in a clinical setting and it's sucking the life out of them, or they're wanting this to be a second or third career, and they're maybe, living their second half of life and wondering, like, can I really do this in this like new age social media technology space? And still there's this yearning, there's this desire. And so let's talk a little bit about the difference between those who follow it and those who don't.
Oh, so good. So good. So here's the thing, and it's one of the frameworks in the book that I talk about. It's called Fly Forward. And so you already mentioned two things that happen, which I feel like it is the universal thing. We have a fall. And so that's the first stage. Stage one, we have a fall, which means that there was you realize that the job is soul sucking. You realize that you don't like it anymore. You realize, okay, there's a second part of myself or this third act, whatever that thing is. It's that fall that either doesn't have to take you all the way down to your knees, but it requires you to think differently. And then it sparks this or ignites you, which is stage two. It ignites you. Some of us will hear those whispers. Some of us will hear like that gut feeling of like, oof, I don't know if this is it anymore. But most people will ignore that. Most people will quiet it, shut it up, not think about it, think that, like, judge that thought and think, oh, that's stupid. That's never going to happen. Or I don't even know. But I feel like most of us listening here has already figured that out, has already figured that piece out of like, yeah, I'm going to do the hard thing, because that is going to fuel my soul, nourish my heart, and nourish my mind. And it's really going to change my trajectory. I don't really know what's next. And that's the thing. Then we get into stage three, which is rising. And rising is it's so many different ways, right? Because it's not linear, like you were just talking about, Lori, because two things are going to come up. We have to be okay with uncertainty. And if we're not, it's going to challenge us like anything. It's going to, and because most people are not okay with uncertainty. So if you're not clear in saying, okay, the next 6 months, I'm just going to be okay with not knowing like the actual ideal path, but I'm going to say yes to those things because you have an open mind. You're leading with curiosity. You're asking good questions. There also will be the caveat of like, ooh, am I doing this okay? Oh, okay, let me see what she's doing. And I'm going to just follow her thing. And I'm going to just keep going. And maybe that thing's going to work for me. We've got to be okay with trying. So we can actually feel curious and skeptical. We can feel open, yet reserved. That's the beauty, but we're leaning into the discomfort. We're leaning into, okay, I don't really know my 2 feet right now, but I'm going to try it anyways. And then that's what gets us into stage 4, which is magnify. And magnifying is, okay, we are quieting the sideline noise. We are not listening to the other people who said, oh, it's not working, or it's going to be this or that, because we are on a path of our own and we're just taking what we can. Basically, we are accepting our reality of, all right, this is my life, and maybe I'm going to get some rejection here, and that's okay. But you are so committed and convicted to continuously growing and expanding yourself, because that's what is going to be required. And also, you're spending time with people that really understand and get you. And then we get into thriving. And thriving, you're now thinking like, okay, it's not even about you anymore, because you're okay with uncertainty. You're okay with being new. And we know that when you're in thriving, a lot of things that you might have tried when you were in rising stage, where maybe you invited somebody to have a conversation or you invited them to work with you and they're like, no, in thriving, you're like, you know what? I'm going to just try that again because 3 months ago, I'm not the same person as I am today. And maybe a
Mm-hmm.
no is like not right now. So you don't take it personally. You take personal responsibility and you're like, okay, I'm going to follow up with them because you are so committed again to up leveling.
I'm so glad we're talking about this is because we all have the fall at some point. We all have the thought, the desire. And then I think what separates stage 3 through stage 5 is those people that assume that success is a straightforward line. If they're feeling fear, then it must not be the right thing for them to do. If they're feeling overwhelmed, they must stay stuck because clearly, if it was meant to be, it should feel comfortable, it should feel glorious, it should feel easy, it should feel all of these things, which is complete and utter bullshit. And, it doesn't feel like that. Those are universal, very normal. And it's what we're talking about here in the sense of trying to identify coping strategies, healthy coping strategies, understanding what the actual process is to getting to where you want to go versus the assumption of, oh, I feel fear, I feel overwhelmed, therefore I'm not cut out for this and I should just, live in mediocrity for the rest of my life. This was such a great conversation and one that I know is going to help so many people get past step 2. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Neeta, for this conversation, and we will talk to everybody soon.